Hi, and welcome to the August 6th, 2014 OpenCrowbar Design Call. This is Judd Malton leading the call today. And design calls, we do a quick review of the last sprint and dive into any important design or other items that we might need some time to hash through and take notes on any decisions we might come to, and then reflect them back to the list. First thing on the list is whether or not these completed stories from the backlogs have actually been closed. And I can't really tell because I haven't been doing this work. A lot of these are Rob. Don't see any, well, there's Scott, but I don't really see any for anybody who's on the call today. Anybody recognize any of these?
I can tell you I haven't made any progress on the ready state prep for Hadoop, which was number 150 in the last sprint. I will be shifting over to that soon.
Cool. That'd be neat. Yeah, no commits from you yet on that.
Nothing new on that.
All right, I didn't open up a bug for what I've been doing. It's been here. This bar plan migration, is, I imagine, Victor, that's yours. Allocate one disk so we can install an OS. Not curious what.
Yes, still continues. I had yet to work up the enthusiasm to actually do that. And by enthusiasm, I really mean willingness to go without sleep for long enough to do that.
Any design considerations you want to mention, as long as we're in a designy sort of meeting? I guess not. The Chef Metal stuff I'm actually picking up for this sprint, and I'm going to be installing, I guess, on our new servers or somewhere, probably just on my laptop, the Chef and Chef Metal from within the Crowbar Docker admin, and try to get basic Metal up and running, even to deploy something out on the web. An Amazon machine, and then see if I can work through the code that Rob's put together, but hasn't actually made to work yet on Chef Metal. So I'm committing to that for this sprint, but I haven't had a time to dig into it myself. Rob showed me around. I got a good sense of what's going on. And has anybody touched moving on to the next item on line 11, review and update the admin node installation guide? Has anybody touched that? I haven't. Looks like Victor was the last to touch it a few days ago.
Yeah, I haven't touched that.
Judd?
Yes.
A couple of days ago, you jacked up the main Crowbar repository.
I did.
Yes. I just noticed it. I just unjacked it.
What did you do to unjack?
I pushed my copy of Origin Master back onto it.
Thank you. I had pushed my merge onto it, which totally stunk. So I tried to remove my merge, but I didn't really understand what got screwed up.
You can't remove a merge, you just have to throw it away.
And
it's almost impossible to revert a merge and do it correctly.
That's why I was having such a tough time. So now the core repo looks like, all right, 4 days ago, Victor's latest commit.
Okay, and now all the pull requests are back to sanity. Good.
When you do a big pull and merge, do you remove that commit and then push back to GitHub with just whatever small commits you've made?
I never push anything to repos in OpenCrowbar unless I know that whatever I'm pushing is a direct descendant of what's already there. So I don't push merges at all. And I only push in on fairly rare occasions where something just is broken and needs to be fixed right now.
Right.
For everything else
would be a pull request. Yeah.
Everything else is a pull request, and when I am syncing up in my local code, I never merge, I always rebase.
Mm-hmm.
I always rebase what I have locally against what is on origin master. It keeps the history linear.
Mm-hmm. And then for your private repo on GitHub, and your personal repo on GitHub, you're not doing pull requests on that. Are you pushing directly to your personal repo on GitHub as a backup?
Of course. What it's there
Okay.
for.
Yeah.
I force push whenever I feel like it.
Yeah. I might write like a pre-commit hook if I can to make sure I'm not pushing to the OpenCrowbar repository.
Yeah, my preferred model, my personal repo, trunk on my personal repo is literally a mirror image of the OpenCrowbar trunk. And I do all my work in a branch, generate the pull request from the branch in my personal repo.
Mm-hmm.
And I never modify or commit into the trunk in my local repo. I only fetch that from the main OpenCrowbar repo. That way,
only ever would. Mm-hmm.
Should we dock some of these models for anybody else involved?
I think they already are ridiculously
Okay.
well documented somewhere.
No, I'm.
Where is it?
I wasn't so much how to document how to use them, but to document that that's our preferred model. That's what I was thinking, or at least some suggested models. I didn't want to describe the models because they're well documented.
Yeah, just 5 bullet points on the README page might be a good idea. Here, like a quick section here on exactly what we just discussed. I'll take that to do. All right. Anybody else got anything on how I jacked up GitHub?
No
I'm
comment.
doing penance by spending time in a data center.
Oh, okay. Now, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about the docs plan for how I want to render the docs. I do need to come up with a written proposal, but that's kind of where I want it to go. So I just dropped that under design items.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to jump there now unless you want to.
Since it's a designy sort of topic, I'd say, yeah, let's go for it. Unless there's anything in here that folks want to review. Victor, I imagine you didn't get to creating a Packer image, a Packer system.
No, I didn't. I was actually toying more with the console stuff.
Cool. Yeah, we can start with you, Mikey, and then we'll come back maybe to the Colo layout.
Okay. So on the dock side, I do need to come up with a written design proposal, but the general idea is where I'm going to work in two phases. So phase one, I'm going to take the existing Markdown docs and convert them to web documentation with a fairly complex kind of Pandoc Sphinx conversion toolchain. And then phase two, once we have that working, we can then go back and at some point we'll actually convert the docs in the tree to restructured text and set things up so that we have the same rendering in Crowbar and to the web using the same toolchain. The big question in my mind, I kind of have this working in a prototype fashion. The big question in my mind is, do we want to bother trying to host phase one on any of the CI infrastructure? It opens a can of worms because getting a current version of Pandoc and some of the other tools is just a mess of dependencies under, say, a CentOS or a Red Hat 6.5. Those tools are just not maintained on the server versions. Whereas if I need to do the conversion on something like Ubuntu or Fedora, it'll be pretty easy to bring up the latest tools. So I think the question is, do we want to try and host that phase one conversion, which will probably only be in place for about a month, on the CI infrastructure, or do you just want me to run it on a server somewhere to build a website for a few weeks till I finish getting through to phase two?
When you say the CI infrastructure, do you mean Trello? Not Trello. Travis?
Well, we have Travis right now doing builds, and I've kind of been out of the loop on what's happening for any sort of automated testing. So I didn't know if we had a server where we were running some of this, or if I should just kind of...
No, it's all hosted. It's all hosted. So fortunately, I got some gear now running in the data center. It's going to be a few weeks till we get a jump box so Victor can properly use it with Crowbar. So in the meantime, I give you access to any one of the boxes and spin up a KVM of Ubuntu, whatever desktop OS works for you, and that could be a safe place to do it.
Okay, then what I'll end up doing is I will set up an environment to do that conversion, get it reliable, and then we can potentially move it over to a VM. Because right now I tried to do it on CentOS 6.5, and it's just turning out to be an ugly mess of hacks. Mostly the simple thing is I just need the updated version of Pandoc. Pandoc's written in Haskell, and once you start going down that dependency chain of updating Haskell on CentOS, it gets really messy.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, Pandoc depends on the Haskell platform. The Haskell platform depends on the Haskell compiler, and it ends up being that sort of thing that it's just not worth trying to build all this in CentOS. I'll do it on another platform. So I will take care of that phase one then. I'll get working on it. And I'll end up pushing this to a website someplace temporarily. But step one will be to get the written proposal.
Yeah, I have a little bit of experience in doing development in Haskell, and pretty much my advice is don't use Haskell platform at all. Just make sure you're running on the very latest versions of Haskell and the very latest versions of Cabal, and use sandboxes and use Cabal sandboxes for everything.
Well, I have a feeling, in fact, I'm 99% sure if I get off CentOS 6.5, I can get a current version of Pandoc. I can get a current version of Pandoc directly without doing any of that toolchain recompile, and that's what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I'll do. And I think what I'll do for that phase one is a fairly simplistic. I'll literally pull trunk, and if any docs were modified, I'll just kind of trigger a rebuild to the site.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So for any points, instead of doing it in a virtual machine, you could do it in a Docker container.
I could do it that way. It was just a question. I didn't know if we had servers kind of handling build process at the back end that I could leverage temporarily. So once you have the data center and the colo stuff squared away, we'll move it there. Short term, I'll just run it somewhere where I have a machine and I can kind of get it up and running.
Cool. And if you want to make it public, I can give you access to some of the colo boxes. And, you know.
Okay.
Their bandwidth is really nice.
I won't beat this to death. I'm just going to plow ahead and move on with this.
Cool. But we have no physical infrastructure for builds yet. Oh.
Okay.
Rob has joined. Hooray. Cool. So we got a spot for so Mikey's headed in a good direction with the documentation, and we have a spot for him to run VMs or containers if he needs to. So he's not living in 10.65 land in order to do that.
I mean, frankly, the stuff that you have with it set up as it is right now in net access, the stuff is beefy enough that might be a good use of it. Because I could just use some throwaway VMs just to rebuild RPM packages and stuff them up onto S3 and shove them up onto S3.
Cool. Let's keep a note. Let's keep a little a log of what we're doing with the boxes and what we're planning on doing with the boxes. I should set up low usage planning log. Which takes us nicely into our next subject, which is, okay, so we got some colo space and we've got 3 super micro boxes with 500 gig drives and some nice Xeon chips. I haven't actually logged into them yet. I can do that and log into one of them and see what they look like. I have a naming convention for the IPMI NICs versus public NICs, but all that has to change, and we got to get IPMI off the public network. Oops. Taking a little while to respond. So, okay. What's the best way to talk about this box? LSPCI? Victor?
Sure.
Okay, here's a, I wish I could share this. I'll use Putty. Pardon the dead air as I get logged into that box with Putty and share it. Okay. All right. That's moderately illegible. We've got Xeon D3-1200 disk, single one. Some USB. And there's 8 gigs of RAM.
Okay, yeah. If you just run free, okay, so 8 gigs of RAM and DF.
500 gig drive, all on root. Oh no, it's by default we have a lovely home partition, totally useless.
Well, it's device map, but we can fold and we'll mutilate that, do whatever we want with it.
And we have 8 cores, a giga-core. Is there something in proc that can give me a model number?
DMI to code. Just run DMI to code. Oh, but yeah, pipe it through last.
And we've got there's sounds like Rob.
It's me. I'm here. Is it noisy? I'll mute.
Yeah, wait.
I'm gonna mute.
Oh, got one of these.
Okay.
It's got 2 NICs and an IPMI NIC. 8 cores, 8 gigs of RAM, half a terabyte of disk, and a Nintendo controller came with each one of them.
Useful that.
I didn't check to see if virtualization was on.
Run CBM dash. Well, no, that won't work in this.
It's one of these, and there's so many things here that it's got to be. I forget what to look for, but it looks like VMX is on. I think that's the one we want.
Yeah, I think VMX is the one we're looking for.
So VM should be on, and so we're ready to go. This is the second. This is box number 2, actually, of the 3. So this would be hostname SM2 NAC OpenCrowbar.org. SM1 NAC OpenCrowbar.org is not the same model. See if I can get there. DNS has been updated. Excellent. And this is one of these. Looks like the same product. Very different enclosure. Very different enclosure. 8 cores. Can't tell. 3. 8 gigs of RAM. Half a terabyte of disk. Rob wants to know if Victor discussed the Hammer API. Perhaps that's the next thing we'll get to, just after we try to understand what's going on with these boxes.
The Hammer stuff hasn't been merged yet, but yeah.
This is a Core i3, actually. This is not the same chipset.
Oh, it's only 4 cores. It's lamer.
It's lamer. Yes, this is lamer. So it's a good jump box.
Yeah, I would definitely pick the lamest box to be the jump box.
it's physically the smallest. If we go back and we have a look, this and then SM3, I don't know if that finished installing. No, that one's not finished installing yet. Probably just needs a reboot. Victor, if you want to start talking about Hammer, I can reboot the other box, and we can wrap up with that.
Okay. So, the Hammer API, I call it Hammer because we use it to hit things, specifically nodes. Pretty much is what lets us do fun things like pretty much a hammer is anything that we use to reach out and touch a node for management purposes. So doing things like powering a node off, turning it back on, enumerating what resources it has for WSMAN, making random API calls to out-of-band controllers. That's the sort of thing that falls under that's the sort of thing that a hammer would do. As far as the API goes, I have a couple of outstanding pull requests, and let me just throw them in the Etherpad. So that first pull request, oh, well, Judd isn't showing the pull request to me right now. But that's all right. Let me just go ahead and put it in the chat.
Okay, I can pull up the pull request in core.
Yeah.
Oh, there. Excellent.
And you're sharing your SSH session right now, it looks like.
Oh, sorry about that. There we go. Node managers to hammers.
Yep.
Why hammer? Because we're using the beat on the nodes.
And I would note on this pull request, I've reviewed it and tested it against physical infrastructure and virtual infrastructure, but I haven't validated that the new function works. So I'm probably going to take it based on the do no harm principle.
Well, what new functionality are you looking for? Because it doesn't really have functionality. It doesn't functionality that's already there.
Yeah, no, it's not the hammer so much. It was the ability to do some of the remote actions you were described in the previous pull request. That's more what I was thinking about, because that's killer. It's a huge upgrade. Calling them hammers, I think, answers a question from last week's community meeting, but it doesn't explain the benefit. I haven't personally demoed the benefit. I was hoping you could talk about that.
Well, a lot of what this API does is it exposes some internal stuff that I've been using for fiddling around with WSMAN. so that people with admin privileges can go and do horrifically awful things to nodes, like delete their root file systems, because one of the functions that the secure shell hammer exposes is the ability to run arbitrary commands as root on nodes. So yay for that. But it's other stuff like that. The API is mainly intended for people who really know what they're doing. Once we actually have non-admin users, I'll make sure that this API is locked down so that only admins can go out and do random bad things to nodes.
And this is to make it clear and really help differentiate what is being taken care of by the annealer and what is outside the annealing process.
Yes, this stuff is outside the annealing process. The annealing process may use it to implement some of the functionality, like turning off nodes when there's nothing interesting to do and then turning them back on, or like the secure shell jig exposes the basic functionality for copying files to and from nodes and issuing remote commands on them. And the annealer and the jig obviously use that, but it's intended to be more of a management API than anything else.
So all the IPMI stuff falls in here?
All the IPMI stuff is exposed through here.
So yeah, I mean there were some sort of knife-like capabilities that you were describing from an API perspective. I don't know that they're sort of back doors, but interesting and useful from being able to talk to a machine in a certain way and use the hammer outside of a jig. Right. Totally a dangerous thing to do, but
yeah, I mean it's pretty much another way. It's pretty much you can do the same. You can do the sorts of things with the hammer API that you can also do with, for instance, IPMI tool against a node, or running WSMAN CLI against it.
But it just wraps them up nicely.
Yeah, it wraps them up. It knows how to use the right authentication to talk to each individual node. When we start getting more paranoid and start using different credentials and for every node, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And those calls would still require authentication against the Crowbar APIs, right? So they're not completely open.
Oh yeah. And we'll restrict what everybody can get.
Okay. Is there an abstraction component to that too, where we've normalized some of the IPMI calls so that they work across platforms, or hammers are much more raw than that? They're just an alternate path in?
For functions, let's see. Let's take a look at that.
I'm gonna mute.
Bring it here.
Oh, thank you. I didn't really get all that. Anyone able to translate from airport?
I was worried about security. That's a whole nother topic.
Oh yeah, yes. It's the topic that runs through all topics.
So I went ahead and threw a link in the chat to the IPMI hammer, so you can just take a look at it and see, for instance, what it does. If you scroll down a little bit, if you look at the actions method, that exposes what all pretty much that's the set of methods that are exposed via the Hammer API.
Mhm.
And run is kind of a pass-through method that just says, take whatever args were passed to run and just hand them straight off to, in this case, IPMI tool. But for like the methods in the power group, those are actual nice wrappers around lower level IPMI tool commands.
Mhm. I see. Chassis power on, chassis power off. What's the bang bang notation? Bang bang paren.
That turns something that is Boolean-ish into an actual Boolean.
Okay. So you've got a ternary operator
So
here, starting with the Boolean. Okay.
Yeah, so out.strip will just return whatever, will return the bit that matches it.
Yeah,
And
it turns
so
Ruby into Perl.
Yeah, and bang bang just turns it from, whatever matched and nil to true or false.
Mhm.
And then uses that to, do the ternary operator.
Neat. Turns Ruby into Perl. Great.
Well, Ruby is kind of Perlish in its use of sigils. Or
Not
use
enough.
of operators that look disturbingly like sigils.
Never enough. I saw at OSCON there were a lot of talks by Damian Conway. Rob, did you attend any of them for Perl 6? Don't imagine you did.
No, I didn't. I didn't go into a single talk. I was hallway summit.
Always something.
Hallway track for me. That's not true. I had a nice discussion with the Erlang team about we had a blended Crowbar and Erlang birds of a feather. We talked about BDD and Crowbar and Mesos and OpenStack. All got blended together. It was fun.
So, looks like we're running out of topics, but I just want to make sure we cover this last node, SM3. It's another model. I'm just not seeing any difference.
All right. I'm going to sign off and to go about my airport business. So, good meeting. We had a lot of progress. Yeah,
Okay.
Have fun toting my baggage, driving
Have
around
fun at the
Denver.
airport.
Bye, everyone.
Airporting.
All right, how can I find the difference between SM3 and SM1? DMI decode doesn't really seem to have much fun in it. The model's product name is the same. Oh no, well, that's just for, oh, I get it.
You mean something other than taking the output and piping them through diffs?
Yeah.
Taking both of the outputs?
Yeah. And 2 at NAC. Oops. Where'd it go? Oh, wrong box. That's it. Oh, it's got the voltage is different. But it looks like all the other aspects of the box are the same.
Well, a voltage is different at least.
Yeah. But everything else is the same. Pretty neat. But they have different enclosures. So something must be different. Maybe there's an extra drive in it that we don't know about.
Well, DMI code doesn't show everything about a box.
All right. So back to our regularly scheduled program. We could consider for the foreseeable future doing other uses for these boxes. What was it? Was there something else you wanted to do with it? To these new boxes, use them as a build or CI boxes to create RPMs, and then upload to SourceForget.
Well, or wherever.
Or just host here.
No. Not hosting anywhere that isn't HA.
Okay, doke.
That's one of the nice things about S3 is that it has plenty of redundancy baked in.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that and good bandwidth to everywhere.
Scotty's not on the phone to discuss any other items like the comparison between Terraform and Crowbar. I did a review with Rob of Chef Metal, but folks are also encouraged to have a look at Chef Metal. Basically, Chef Metal is usually run with Chef Solo in order to launch virtual machines or cloud machines using chef-like recipes. I haven't seen how it could really be well integrated into a complete system, but as folks experiment with that integrate into a CI system or whatever to spin up machines and make them go away, it'll be nice to have a Crowbar driver so people can drive their metal, their real metal, with it. I didn't see anything for the last item before the hammer stuff, getting feedback on the list with the inclusion of console and Sensu for alerting. I didn't see anything on the list. Victor, you at a point where you're ready to sort of talk to the list about what console would give us? Because certainly Nagios should be killed. It's just a zombie walking around by now.
Yeah, I can work something up. It's been a fun week.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, anything else, anybody? I think we're going to wrap up this design call.
Nothing from me.
All right. Well, But to do, actually, one last thing I would like to bring up is our desired colo layout. We could probably get a little more gear. Any more things folks would throw out there for our cabinet desires they'd want?
Nothing from me right now.
I mean, what'd be most useful to me would be to have a jump box that I can run a VM, I can run a Crowbar admin node instead of a VM, and have all the other boxes hooked up to that so that so that we can set up and tear down clusters easily.
Would those boxes hanging off of it, would they be on the external LAN segment as well as just a Crowbar LAN segment? I could even physically separate it because I got an extra switch here where I could have the secondary interface dangling off to another switch, and that switch hosting, those 3 nodes.
I'd prefer that they weren't on the internet at all. I mean, unless we're going to be using them to host public-facing stuff, they shouldn't be on the public internet at all. They should be, we should have complete control of their connectivity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for right now, since it really boils down to what are we going to use these boxes for? Are we going to use them for development, or hosting, or what?
Well, I'm not sure what our needs are. Do the needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many? Do the needs of continuous integration, building RPMs, having a factory to upload those assets, do those override having this small private network of gear that can be thoroughly abused?
Well, continuous integration, dicking around building RPMs and whatnot, we don't need a full machine for that. We can do that on throwaway VM or Docker containers.
Mm-hmm.
Which means we can do it on whatever we wind up using as a jump box.
Yes.
And for doing continuous integration work, if we're going to do CI work on actual physical hardware, that hardware needs to be something that we can completely manage, which means it needs to be a small cluster of isolated machines.
Yeah. I think to keep the project moving along best, we'll get that jump box and hide these nodes behind that jump box to really accelerate development and use. We need a lot more boxes to set up a real continuous integration system.
Well, just doing basic testing of what we have right now. We wouldn't. To start off with, we'd essentially just want a cluster that's a one of everything. And farm work out that way.
Okay. So that's what we'll start with. And use whatever jump box we can come up with for the RPM builds. And wait on continuous integration until we're tired of these boxes or we get more boxes.
Well, we could do basic CI with those boxes. At this point, continuous integration would mostly be testing every pull request to make sure we can spin up a valid Crowbar cluster with it.
Mm-hmm. It might be a little annoying if you're working against a box and hit reboots to pick up an automated CI task.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sure.
I mean, that's not a use case that I think of that much because I do have my ginormous laptop, which I actually own and is not owned by Dell.
Well, including IPMI and hardware timing issues into the CI would be really great.
Yeah.
I think it would be a necessary next step. So the important thing, I guess, is to get a jump box for, next, I guess, a week from Friday, 2 weeks from now. So I can bring it down and plug it in, get the network relayed out. That's it. With 45 seconds left in the hour, I'll say thank you all for listening and for contributing. Really awesome. Good to have the project moving. And we'll see you next week for a planning meeting.
Alrighty.
Bye, whoever survived. Bye.
Bye.